Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat malam, good evening everyone. Welcome to a special event by the Project Management Institute Indonesia Chapter. My name is Arif Prasetyo and I'm the VP Communication of PMI Indonesia Chapter, and today I will be your host and moderator. If this is the first time that you are joining our event, on behalf of PMI Indonesia, we would like to welcome you and that we hope you're going to enjoy the session today. Because today's session is a special one. We invite speakers from the PMI HQ to speak directly about this new PMP exam, which was rolled out very recently in 2021. And I know that many people have so many questions. This can be seen by the number of registrations that we received. Even the first day as we announced the event was going to happen. We thank the Asia Pacific PMI for supporting us in organizing this event. Indonesia, here, the PMP is still the go-to certification. And many of our members and project professionals are asking about the major changes that is happening this year in terms of the exams, the questions, and more importantly, how do they better prepare for it? Some of them are asking about the option to take the exam in non-English languages, and in particular, the Bahasa Indonesia. And so, today we are joined with Alicia Burke, PMI Product Manager Certification, and also Glenn Farrow, PMI Product Specialist. Welcome, Alicia and Glenn. How are you guys?
Thank you. I'm doing well.
Good. Thank you for inviting us.
Very good, very good. Very nice to have you here. So before we begin, I would just like to get the formalities out of the way. So all the participants will be on mute and the videos turned off so that we have a better focus on the session. If you have any questions throughout the session, please submit it in the chat box. We have a team who's going to monitor it and they will pass on the messages and highlight them to me so that it can be addressed by our speakers. And this session will be recorded and later on it will be published in our social media channels so that the members and the registrants who couldn't make it today can also learn from it later on. If you are a PMI Indonesia chapter member, then we will be submitting the PDUs on your behalf for this event. And last but not least, and most importantly, please enjoy the session and give us your feedback at the end. Okay, so now with that, I will hand over the session to Alicia and Glenn. Take it away, guys.
Thank you. Let me share my slide. Okay, are you able to see my slide again?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much for inviting us here today. Again, I'm Alicia Burke. I'm going to cover part of the presentation, and then my colleague Glenn will also be speaking, and then we'll take any questions you still have after we finish the slides. Okay. So I first wanted to start off with announcing exciting news. The PMP exam is now available in Bahasa Indonesia. So this translation just launched on January 2nd. And when you schedule your exam with Pearson VUE, this is now one of the options when you can select your preferred language. And that will be for the exam questions as well as the whole interface, whether you take your exam at a test center or using the online proctoring option. So we're really excited to be able to offer this new translation to you. And just to give some background, I wanted to talk a bit about how the PMP exam is made. I think often it's not realized what a wonderful process it is, because the PMP exam is not something that is made just by PMI staff sitting in a room somewhere in the headquarters, not at all. It's actually created by project managers for project managers. These photos are just from some of the events that we have had over the years where we would gather together people from all different regions, many different industries, just all types of backgrounds. But they all are PMPs coming together and creating what will become the next version of the PMP exam. So it's just a really exciting process. And it's great to know that if you are going to get your PMP, that exam you're taking was created by your peers. So it's just a really wonderful story. And I always like to share that. So people, as you're getting your PMP, or if you have your PMP, you can be really proud of it, that it was made by your peers and now you've attained that. And just to go into a little bit more of a story of how the PMP is created. I know there's a lot of information on this slide. You don't have to read through all the details, but I did want to just show you the general process that happens. Because there is often a misperception that the PMP exam is based on a single book, or it's just based on a training class, when actually it is based on a large amount of market research. So every few years, PMI will go out and gather a lot of project professionals from different industries and different regions, varying years of experience. And we will work with them to understand what's changed about the role of a project manager, how has that role evolved, and what type of knowledge and skills do people need to be successful in that role. So we will gather people together to have those conversations. And once we have talked to a small group and collected their feedback, we'll then do a broad survey to thousands of individuals to make sure that everyone we're talking to is aligned in what the common themes are. And we specifically want to know what tasks does a project manager need to perform, how frequently they perform those tasks, and how critical each of those is for their success. And the result of that research will actually become an exam content outline. So this is the blueprint for the exam content. Every question on the PMP exam has to tie back to that exam content outline. And that document is available to the public. It's on PMI's website. I have a link to it in these slides that we'll be sharing with you after the session. And it is available in all the same languages that the exam is in. So it will be in Bahasa as well. You can download it in that translation. And that's going to show you the domains of knowledge that will be on the exam, and then task statements within those domains, and every single test question ties back to one of those tasks. So that is really the key starting point. If you're preparing for your PMP exam, I'm going to make sure you download that exam content outline, and that should guide your study. Once that exam content outline is created, then we go into the exam development phase. And that's when we, again, work with people who have their PMP from all different countries, all different industries, and they write test questions that align to that exam content outline. They also then will share it with others in that group who are going to review it to make sure that the questions apply, even if you work in a different industry or in a different country. We want them to be relevant globally, industry agnostic. And they will also find at least 2 different reference books that back that question. And that's just to make sure that it's not a concept that's just unique to one particular author. We want to make sure it's commonly accepted practice. And that reference list is also available on our website. And there's a link in this presentation. So we don't tell you a list of every reference used because there are hundreds. We let the writers and reviewers choose based on their experience what the best books are. But we have created a list of the top 12 most frequently used references by those authors. So the people writing the questions, these were the books they frequently were using as validation. So that's also a great study tool. Not saying that you have to read every book on that list, but if you look at the exam content outline, and there's maybe some topics tested where you have less experience and want to increase knowledge, looking at that reference list would be a good guide for some books that you may want to check out. The PMBOK Guide 6th edition is on that list, but it's important to note that the exam is not just based on the PMBOK Guide. There are other references used, and a question could have any 2 books backing it. The PMBOK Guide might be one of them, but not always. So that list can help you, with a starting point for other materials you might want to use. Finally, the exam goes through a pilot process where people are taking that first version of the test. We're collecting data, how they answered the questions, and doing analysis to determine that all the questions are fair and that they're at the right difficulty level. We'll make any adjustments if needed based on the pilot, and then the exam is released. So this happens January 2nd for this most recent version of the PMP. And then we go into what we call continued credential care. So using that same exam content outline, we'll continue to write new questions by bringing in other PMPs, but they will all align to that outline until we go through this whole process again in a few years. And we always would give you, at least 6 months notice when we're going to be launching a new version. So thanks for letting me take a little extra time there, but I feel like it's good to understand how it's built, because that also helps guide the best way to prepare for the exam if you're studying. So for the new PMP that launched in January, we've shifted from the 5 former domains to 3 new domains. They are people, process, and business environment. And this came from that extensive research and talking to all the experts in the field, as well as talking.
Alicia, I think you are muted. Sorry. You're still, there you go.
Okay, that was very strange. I didn't press anything. Let me get back to the slide. Huh? Okay. So we shifted to 3 new domains, and this was based on the research, as we heard from the project managers as well as the hiring managers, about what is most essential for a project manager now and moving forward. And what's interesting is that people, process, and business experience actually aligns very much with the talent triangle, which we introduced a few years ago for people earning PDUs to align to a talent triangle. And we didn't actually try to lead the research to go this way at all. It just naturally came up. So it kind of validates that the talent triangle and the legs of this triangle are still very relevant, as they now are appearing as the domains of the new PMP. So, we shifted away from just basic project lifecycle as being the domains. Incorporating more agile and hybrid practices throughout the domains is one of the key changes, and that came through very strongly in what we heard in the research. And leadership and soft skills are also much more prevalent as being very critical skills, so they are also included on the exam. So just an overview of those 3 domains, and all of this information is in that exam content outline that I mentioned, where it's going to list all the tasks within each of those domains. But at the high level, for the people domain, this is 42% of the exam questions. And this is all about skills and activities associated with effectively leading the project team. So there will be some information here on the human resource management knowledge area, leadership competencies, stakeholder engagement, and project team governance would all be part of this domain. 50% of the exam is on process. So this does reinforce those technical aspects of managing a project, similar to the content that was on prior versions of the PMP exam. And there are some new topics included. So business value, change management is now featured, how to select a methodology, and the transfer of project knowledge. Those are some of the new technical aspects, in addition to the ones that have been covered in prior versions. And then the final part is the business environment. This will be 8% of the questions. And this is about the connection between your projects and the organizational strategy. So there will be questions in here regarding compliance, value delivery, project integration with other projects, and change management in this section as well. Okay, so I'm now gonna turn things over to Glenn. I'll keep advancing the slides just so we don't have to do a transition, but go away.
Thank you, Alicia.
Sure.
Did we want to answer questions, or are we going to wait till the end to do that? The questions are in chat.
We'll wait till the and just in case we might still cover it in your slides.
Excellent. So the new exam is looking at value delivery across the continuum or spectrum from predictive, the traditional, the waterfall, through agile, the flexible, adaptive, iterative. It is much more encompassing than prior versions of the exam. So with the 3 domains, you can see that the breakdown of the methodology information that is covered on the new exam: 50% predictive, 23% agile, 27% hybrid. And you can see there on the right-hand side that prior to January 2nd, here is task 8, how it's worded, and what the new task will look like in the exam content outline. A different focus, continually survey project deliverable quality, while in the prior, it looked more of a static. We checked quality to make sure it was meeting the project expectations. So here are some very important changes. This is what everybody is thinking about and asking. The new exam is comprised of 180 questions. Prior, it was 200, but we're still scoring the same number of questions with the 180 that we were with the 200 that will go against your performance on the exam. It is now 230 minutes to complete the exam. We've added 1 additional break. So now there are 2 10-minute breaks. Those breaks come after question 60 and question 120. You must review and attest to the fact that you have looked at all the questions, that you've answered them. Then you will click on that everything has been reviewed and begin break. Once you once you begin your break, you will not be able to go back to the prior questions when you come back and sign back in. So once you've looked at questions 160, you've answered them to your liking, then you will not be able to go back 1 to 60 or 120 to 1. You will not be able to go back and do that. You will move forward with the next set of questions. So another thing that is different is the type of questions that we will be offering on the exam. You can, there you go. So one of the new ones is a matching. It's very different than the question and then the 4 multiple choice. This is something that is going to show processes. You'll need to move the different process into the corresponding process group. A review of a graph to determine cost involved in the process. So here is a short scenario, and it will ask you to determine from the listings on the exam which item should the project manager edit. Again, moving away from the strictly question for multiple choice answers. So definitely important things to keep in mind. The exam content outline will show you the task per domain. Important to know also to the reference list. Again, the PMBOK guide is only one of the references used as we develop the exam. The PMBOK Guide 6 is the one that is currently in effect right now. You could say that information aligns with the exam. There will be a new PMBOK 7 out this year, but understand it's not a one-for-one. People want to say, well, we have a PMBOK Guide 6, so all the questions will pertain exactly to what's in there. It is only one of the reference publications or books to which you need to be aware when you are preparing for the exam. Let me see if I can. You want to click on the reference list there, please, and we'll.
It's
No.
slowly loading. I don't know if it's gonna open for us.
This is available through the website, through pmi.org. So you'd want to look at, here are documents, here are publications, here are reference materials that you can utilize as you're preparing for the exam. And the handbook will explain to you, as you know, the different rules, regulations, process, procedure as you move through the application and credentialing process.
Sorry, I just, it's still spinning because I tried to open the reference list. It's not letting me actually advance the slide, but the next slide just says thank you. So I think we can open it up to questions. I can actually stop sharing so you can see us more easily. All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Alicia and Glenn. So we've received a few questions from the participants, and today we have the members, we have the guests, and we also invited some of our partners from the training centers and so on who are interested in this topic. So I'll start off with you know, the fact that now we have gone from 180 questions to 175 questions. How is the passing score affected by this change? We used to have these experimental questions, and now with the less number of questions, how does it affect the passing score?
We actually do still have the same number of questions that count toward the score. So the previous exam had 200 questions, the current has 180 questions, but in both cases, we only 175 are counting toward your score. So it's just the number of experimental questions decreased. There still are 5 on each person's test. So you don't know which questions count and which don't, but those are still the ones where if they're not scored, it's because we're collecting data to make sure it's a good question and a fair question before it will be released in a future form where it does count toward the score. So we are still collecting that, just a smaller number of the questions, but the ones that count has not changed.
Okay. And now that we've included some new references and we've gone from the traditional domains to the 3 new domains, how will people prepare for the exam then? How much of the PMBOK, for example, how much time should they be spending on the PMBOK against these new references that have come into play?
I would actually say start with the exam content outline. Like that is the most important part of studying and understanding what's going to be on the exam. From there, really, when you see knowledge gaps based on the exam content outline and what your experience or your past knowledge is, from there, that should direct what references you want to look at more. If you have, it might be the PMBOK guide for you. If maybe you have less agile or hybrid experience, you would want to look on that reference list for some recommendations of books that include agile or hybrid content. So I'd really advise the person studying to start with the exam content outline and then customize the plan based on your prior experience and where those gaps are for you.
Okay. There is a question here about the agile content in the new exam, and how much does this overlap with like the people who are pursuing the ACP credential?
Yeah, it's the agile content on the PMP exam is to test that you have foundational knowledge of agile topics. You don't necessarily need to have been on an agile team and experienced with agile. So more knowledge based for the PMP, whereas for the ACP, you actually need agile experience. About a year at least. So it's a different level of depth for the person going for an ACP is more going down that specialized path of being an agilist and working on the agile teams. So really just the amount of depth and detail is the difference.
Okay. There's a question here about the Bahasa Indonesia option. Now that we are offering this to the aspirants, what about the training centers? Will there be an Indonesian version of the training materials upcoming soon?
Yeah, if they're not out already, definitely any PMI provided training or from an authorized partner should have translated options available.
Okay. All right. So there is another one here. I mean, many people are asking about how the scores are calculated. I'm not sure if that's something you can disclose, but is there you can't, right? So is there a minimum percentage? Like if people answer a question wrong, does that deduct the point and things like that?
No, so we can't share any information on pass rates or cut scores or things like that, but it is every question, you get full credit or not. We don't deduct anything, but if you answer a question, it's either completely right, completely wrong. We don't give partial credit for any of them either. So.
Okay, so those are the challenging ones, right? All the below applies except those ones.
Yeah.
I hate those ones. Okay, so you mentioned, Glenn, about there is one comment that you made about reviewing like answers that people have made, but once you've clicked on review the answer, you can't go to the previous question. Can you just clarify on this again?
So the first break will occur, if you'd like to take the break, will occur after question 60.
Okay.
But prior to moving forward with the exam, whether you're going to take the break or not, you must review the questions. There actually is a screen that will come up and say review. You can determine whether you flagged any to look at to make sure they're all answered. And then you'll say, I have reviewed. You'll click on it, and then you can either begin your break or move to question 61. Once you say that you reviewed them all, you cannot go back to any of those questions again.
Okay, so basically that demarcation for the first 60 question is the break. After that, there's no going back to those first 60 questions.
Yes,
Okay.
and the same with the second break. At question 120, you cannot go back.
Okay. All right, clear. The next one. Is it true that the composition of the questions will be somewhat 50-50 between predictive and agile?
Yes, so it's 50% predictive and then 50% is a combination of agile and hybrid. So that's the
Okay.
breakout between them, and it's throughout the 3 domains.
Okay. All right. Wow, this was a lot of questions. By the way, everyone who are attending, we've created a very small survey which keeps getting piled on with all these questions. Whenever you have time, please click on the Google form and let us know your feedback on the session and how we can improve. All right. The next question is about the translation to Bahasa Indonesia. So, you know, this is something that we also get a lot from the members. Is it possible for us to see some examples of these questions? Because, you know, the concern is that, and I know we've addressed this before with the Asia Pacific team. The concern is that, you know, sometimes when you translate the Indonesian language, it doesn't quite get translated you know, correctly, right? And it confuses people actually. So there are many of us who want to know, who wants to see what are the questions like after it gets translated.
Yeah. So I have some bad news and some good news. So the bad news is we can't provide samples right now. I did talk to our exam development team, and unfortunately, they just don't have any extra questions that they can expose at this time. Especially as we've moved to online proctoring, we have to create and launch new questions at a much more rapid rate than we used to. So we just don't have any spare inventory. But once this exam has been in the market longer and we start to retire some of the questions that have been exposed, we can probably share some samples. But the good news is when the translation is done, we actually, after the initial translation with professional translator, will then have PMPs who are bilingual actually review the translation to make sure that everything looks accurate. So that there was another review by people who are project management professionals to ensure that the translation was done properly. So there is that extra step of validation. So hopefully that adds some reassurance, but we will also, you know, try to share samples as we have inventory available.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we are still, you know, welcoming any other questions that that you guys have, or if you want to, you know, discuss directly with Glenn and Alicia, just let us know, and we'll open the mic for you, and you can interact directly if you're not getting the answer that you want yet, right? Okay. So in terms of in terms of this change, you know, why was this change? I mean, this is basically going back a little bit, stepping back. Why was this change not done as the PMBOK 7 is released? Why the need, or why the urgency to upgrade, let's say, this exam outline before the launch of the PMBOK 7?
They're actually not tied at all. So the exam and the PMBOK schedules they're both their own entities. The PMP exam is not based on the PMBOK guide, so we've never tried to align with their releases. And what's interesting is this PMP exam was actually supposed to come out a year earlier than it did. But because of COVID, we extended the older version, just knowing people would have more difficulty maybe getting to training or finding a seat. So actually this exam would initially have come out a year earlier. So it would have been well before the PMBOK guide change anyway. It's just the delay with COVID made them feel closer together, but it wasn't intended to be that way.
Okay. Okay. And once you choose, there is a question here, right? Once you choose an Indonesian version of it, is there an option to see the original question in English just to be sure?
There is a place you can click to see it. Actually, Glenn knows exactly where it is, I think. He might be. Glenn, do you know the exact wording of that button by chance?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine. But it's not like there were older forms of PMP where you would see like both languages on screen at the same time. It's not like that now. You will see it just in the language you choose, but there is a small button if you want to see it in English. So you would have to, click it on the individual question, but it is there.
Okay, but out of curiosity, how many exam takers have chosen this option? Do you know, Alicia or Glenn?
To look at the English version?
No. To actually take the exam in Bahasa.
I do not have that statistic, but I can check with our
Yeah.
exam development team and get back to you.
Okay. Because we also, in the chapter, we also want to promote this option, right? And we'll try to get more and more people to use the Bahasa Indonesia, knowing that it has been somewhat, a barrier for them to pass the exam, right? Okay. Now with this new method of online proctor test, how do you prevent cheating, or how do you catch people when they are taking the exams from the comfort of their own homes?
I'll let Glenn start with that. He knows a lot.
So there is, we have a robust data forensic process where we're reviewing how someone answers, how long it takes someone to answer, so that we can determine whether there is, I don't want to say cheating, but that someone is not maintaining some honest test taking. The person is greeted by a greeter from Pearson VUE. They have to present their IDs. We ask them to show their workspace so we can determine that there aren't materials there that could be used during the exam. So there are a number of processes in place to ensure that no one is cheating on the exam.
Okay.
Does that answer, or?
Yeah, kind of. Okay. The next one is that, how much of the people, process, and business environment are actually coming from PM Box 6?
That on a question by question level, I don't have that data. I don't know that we can share it at that level.
Okay.
But I would say start with the reference list that's linked in the slides is going to give you the top used ones. I'd say start with those.
Okay. All right. There is a question here about the tools, the whiteboard, the calculators, highlighters. Will those still be available?
They are available in a digital version online. There is a digital whiteboard, calculator. It's all available to you online when you're taking the online exam.
Okay.
There's
So
even, if you're taking it online, there's also a practice version of the whiteboard on Pearson VUE's website if you want to get used to it before taking the test.
Okay. Wow, there's so many questions, and some of them are duplicates, but do please keep them coming. We still have some time. So regarding the break, I know that there's been one more break added in this new format, but will there be a chance for people to take, or forfeit one break before the 60th question? Like if they need to go to the restroom or any other reason?
Not on a online proctored exam, no. Now, if you are in a test center, you can raise your hand and you can take a break, but the exam clock will continue to tick away. It goes against your time to take the exam.
Okay, but in the online proctored one, it's not possible, right?
It is not possible.
Meaning that if you leave the computer, it will be disqualified.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Your exam will be terminated. The proctor will shut down the exam.
Okay, clear. And what is this is also something that maybe we don't know yet, but there is a question here. How long will this exam, this new format, last? Before you issue the PMBOK 7, which will trigger another series of changes?
The PMBOK 7 actually won't trigger a major change. So the only change that would come after PMBOK 7 would be minor terminology updates. So if the PMBOK 7 changes a term from one thing to another, we might update the vocabulary, but the exam will still be based on the exam content outline. So we would not go through a PMP update for a new exam content outline until probably at least 2 years.
2 years from now, you mean, or 2 years after the PMBOK 7 is released?
2 years from now. So
2 years from now, okay.
The PMBOK 7 are totally separate products that they won't change each other.
I see, okay. Okay, follow-up question, Glenn, about the cheating, right? There are many people on LinkedIn who are, selling a service of basically taking exams and all of that. Is PMI aware of these practices, and are you guys doing anything about it?
Yes, we are aware.
Yeah, we have. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I've lost my video, so I'm sorry, Alicia. If you could go ahead.
No problem. We have a whole security team at PMI, so they are actively finding those individuals and taking legal action against them. So yeah, they are finding them through many advanced data forensics type tools and security tools that they have. Also, if any PMI members have a tip, somebody contacted them and they pass that message along to us, we take very swift action. So that's something PMI is very serious about its security. We have a large team internally working on that, as well as a number of professional partners in the security space that we work with. So that's something where we are definitely taking care of, just knowing it's part of the modern world, but we are definitely on top of that.
Okay. There's a funny one here, or an interesting one with regard to this timer. Would it be possible if you guys change the timer instead of going down like a countdown and have it go up to slightly reduce the pressure when taking the exam?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but then also too, you'd have to do a little math in your head to know I have this, and when you count down, you know exactly what time you have. I guess we don't want to give you another thing to think about. We want you to do your best on the exam.
Okay. This one is a good one. For people taking the tests from home, is there any minimum specifications on the computers, on the bandwidth that is required?
Yeah, yes, there is. That is all listed. You can find on the Pearson VUE website when you're going to schedule, or if you'd like to learn more about Pearson VUE's on-view online proctored exams. It's a list of technical requirements that you must have.
Okay. All right. All right. So there is a case here when a test taker is doing his exam and suddenly the electricity goes off, a blackout, or due to any other reasons where the internet gets interrupted. Is there a way that we can appeal for a retake?
So what will happen if that were to occur? The proctor will attempt to reach the test taker, or the test taker can reach out to the proctor. There is a button there to grab their attention. What would happen is there will be a troubleshooting process in place. So they will try to bring the candidate back online. They may need to restart the program. There's a number of items. If they cannot get them back online, they will be able to take the exam for free, the retake for free. And Pearson VUE will contact PMI, let them know what happened, and a new eligibility will be created and sent to the candidate. The candidate will know right away that they can reschedule.
So the person or the party who contacts the PMI customer support would be Pearson VUE in that case, or should it be the candidate?
Yes. Yeah, the candidate should not need to do that.
Okay.
They will actually receive an email from us, from PMI, saying a new eligibility has been created. You can now go in and schedule your exam.
Okay. Okay. All right. There are some questions here regarding the prerequisites of taking the exam. Is it okay for you to take those questions as well, Alicia, Glenn?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So there is this requirement of the training. Is it now, mandatory to take the training with an ATP authorized training partner, or can we still use the available training providers near us?
Yeah, at this time, you can use any training provider. It doesn't have to be any specific one. So it could also include classes in project management you had at a university, at your organization, at a local trainer. So those all can count for the 35 hours of professional education.
Okay, very good. I hope that clarifies it. Okay, so I have read the exam content outline, and I saw the tasks under each domain, and could you please elaborate on these tasks and how they map to the PMBOK 6?
They don't.
They don't.
Tasks don't, they're not meant to map to a book. Those tasks came from when we gathered all the experts together to define what tasks a project manager needs to be able to do based on their real experience. And then we gave a survey out to a large number of PMP holders, as well as hiring managers. And they were ranking those tasks as what are the most critical, what do people need to do most frequently. So the tasks came from that study. They're not from a book. They were from the collective experience of the project management professionals.
Okay, and those are and those are considered as as in making the new questions for this exam outline.
Yes, yeah. So those are what made the exam content outline. And then when the PMPs would come to write questions, they actually have to write a question that tests an individual task. And then they did bring in 2 reference books to back each one, just to make sure like they didn't have some crazy idea that wasn't validated in other places. But even then, it's not backed by a single book. There's at least 2 of them, just to ensure it's common best practices that are accepted in numerous places. So the exam content outline is experience-based. When people are writing the questions, they're told to draw from their own experience. They're supposed to be thinking of real world scenarios based on things they encountered that another project manager should be able to know to answer those questions and resolve them. So it's meant to be experience-based, and it is meant to test your ability to apply that knowledge based on your experience. It's not meant to be, I read a book and I can just recall what I've read. It's really based on your personal experience as a project manager.
So I think this is quite a step change from the previous exams where it's very heavy on the PMBOK, right? And now
What's interesting is that is a misperception. The past versions of the PMP were created that same way, but there was a misunderstanding, I think, that people thought it was based on just a book when it was always based on that extensive research and the voices of the professionals.
Okay. So do you know how many people, or what is the success rates of the people who have been taking these new exams?
We're not allowed to share that, just PMI policy. We can't share pass rates. But I can say it's a healthy pass rate compared, global standards for credentialing programs. Similar to prior versions of the PMP exam. So it is, it's got a healthy rate, and we do have a whole exam development team who closely is monitoring and analyzing that, just to make sure that it stays healthy.
Okay. So I have like 2 or 3 questions now here asking about the new terms, and terminologies that is probably going to be new in this. How do people become acquainted with terminologies?
That would come from the exam content outline. So it would, in there include any new terms that would be tested in those concepts. So between that and checking out a few items on that reference list, that should be a good way to get acquainted. If that still feels not comfortable enough and you want to do maybe an exam prep training from a trainer, that's always an option too. So it's not required that you take, a exam prep boot camp, but it is an option for those who would like to, study more formally.
Okay. So, Mas Akbar Azwir, I think I'm going to have to ask him to turn on the microphone, and because he's not satisfied with a healthy pass rate. Can you come online, Mas Akbar, and maybe we can discuss a little bit more on this and any concerns that you have?
Thank you, Mas Arif. No, it's just a silly question actually regarding the healthy pass rate. I mean, yeah, I think it's a good information if the PMI can actually share not really the exact numbers, but at least give some hints about the passing rates of the new the current exam content outline compared to the previous, if possible.
Yeah, unfortunately, PMI policy does not allow us to share that. I can share that we have an exam development team with a psychometrician who has a PhD heading that department. So her job and her profession is all analysis of the statistics of the exam performance. So there is someone who's closely monitoring that and analyzing that to make sure that everything is performing as we want to. But policy does not allow us to share the pass rates, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. All right. So
if I could answer a question you had asked earlier, I went back in to look at my numbers. So through last week, and I believe it was about Wednesday of last week, 7 candidates had taken, had selected the language.
Oh, very good. Okay. Okay. So we have already, so that's since January, Glenn, right?
Yes, since January 2nd. Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. So there is another question here about, with the rapid change in industry practices and transformation and the proliferation of methods and, agility and all of this, where does PMI see in terms of necessity to, to keep updating the PMBOK? Is it going to be more frequent updates, or is it going to become more generic, or what is the what is the position of PMI in this?
Is that for the PMP exam or the PMBOK guide?
For the PMBOK guide, yes.
That I can't speak to their schedule. There's a different group in PMI who's the experts on the PMBOK guide development.
Okay.
I do think they're trying to make it one that is more frequently modified, but they are the experts on that topic. So if you did want to discuss with them directly for a separate presentation, I can certainly link you to some great speakers on that team.
Thank you. But basically, in terms of the exams, like you said, right, it's probably going to be 2 years or so, right, before we see any more changes.
Yeah, generally it's 2 to 3 years, depending on how rapidly things are changing. Now, if something earth-shattering happened in the profession that we needed to address sooner, we would definitely do that. But we always will give the trainers and the candidates at least 6 months notice before an exam would change, just so that if they're studying for one version, they can finish out on that version before it changes.
Okay. All right. So there are many questions from the participants asking about the requirements to take a PMP, if you are a fresh graduate, whether you are eligible or not. I don't think we are going to go into too much details on this, but there is a lot of resources in the PMI website, or you can go and contact our membership or our education team in the PMI Indonesia chapter, and we'll be happy to help you and support you with the preparation and answer any questions that you may have before taking the PMP exam. Okay, so I think we have completed the 1 hour. Alicia and Glenn, thank you so much for joining us today. It's very appreciated, and I hope, looking at all these questions that are pouring in, I hope it somehow clarifies a lot of the doubts of the team here and all the members. Do you have any last words, Glenn, Alicia, before we close?
I'll just say thank you for inviting us today, and we're really excited to be able to offer the exam in a new translation. So we're just excited to be here, and really for anyone who is studying or thinking about getting a PMP, wish you the best of luck and much success.
And if additional questions come in that you need help with or assistance, please feel free to reach out to us, or we'll be happy to answer whatever we can.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, and of course, like I said, the chapter is also open. If you want to reach out to us on social media or send us drop an email to us at info@pmi-indonesia.org. We have a team that can help you, and I'm more than happy to help you. Okay, with that, I would like to say again, thank you so much, Alicia and Glenn, for being with us today, for sharing. And thank you to PMI Asia Pacific for the support that you guys have given to organize this event. And thank you to our volunteers who are working very hard always behind the scenes. And last but not least, thank you to everyone who have turned up today and joined our session. We'll see you again next time. And in the meantime, please take care of yourself. Thank you.
Arif.
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting, right? I keep forgetting. So sorry, Dave. Let's do a quick photo session before we go. Everyone, if you could please switch on your cameras. And if you at some point were switched off by the administrator, do let me know and we will start your video.
Wow, today we have 7 screen. 7 pages. That's a lot. Okay, I will give 10 seconds to turn on your camera before I will start taking picture. Okay, I will start from the first page. Then the second page. The third page. The fourth page. Okay, done.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you.